In Jurassic Park 3, we see the Spinosaurus relentlessly hunting the humans across the entirety of Isla Sorna. For over 20 years, this has been debated by most of the fandom as to why the Spinosaurus relentlessly hunts them, and the real reason was something you'd never expect. Throughout the course of Jurassic Park 3, the cast for some reason relentlessly bump into the Spinosaurus. Wherever they go, the Spinosaurus seems to appear. Usually there always appears to be a motive. Take the Lost World Jurassic Park for example. Same goes for the velociraptors in Jurassic Park 3. No one questions that because it's quite evidently clear that the velociraptors are chasing the protagonists because they won the eggs back. Because remember, Billy stole them because he wanted to sell them to fund his digs. But what is the real reason then that the Spinosaurus follow the protagonists everywhere around the island? Now, a very popular fan theory is the fact that the Spinosaurus follows the protagonist around the entire island because of the injury it sustained to its fin. Now, in a very early scene in Jurassic Park 3, they land the plane, Cooper comes running out onto the airfield, followed by the Spinosaurus as the plane is trying to take off. As the plane does eventually take off, it clips the sail of the Spinosaurus, and that's why you see the blood all over the windscreen of the plane. Initially, I thought this was the blood from Cooper, but it turns out to actually be from the Spinosaurus, which gets confirmed in this clip here.
Yeah, we were trying to take off and we clipped the tail of a Spinosaurus and he's mad.
Okay, let's take a look. Here we go.
Now that does definitely give motive to a degree for the Spinosaurus to initially start hunting, but to completely follow them around the entire island, there has to be some bigger, stronger connection, much like the velociraptors and the T-Rex pair, because we also know that the Spinosaurus is fiercely territorial. So why would it leave its territory and pursue the protagonist around the entire island? Additionally, the Spinosaurus actually wound up with two carcasses, one of that the T-Rex had killed, and also what the Rex had been eating. It would go against every instinct in its body as a carnivore to abandon such a huge meal and chase the humans, if it wasn't for another ulterior motive, one stronger than simply revenge on it having its dorsal fin attacked. Now, if you remember from my original Spinosaurus video where I talk about it being created by Biocen and InGen, we will know that it was mistreated and experimented on. It would have grown up in a lab, eventually escaped or let loose, and would have perceived humans as such as some type of threat, and having memories of being locked away in a cage, thus being afraid and not wanting that to happen again. Hence why he would chase them all around the island to dispose of that possibility and threat. Now, there is less evidence in this theory than there is for the dorsal fin, but it is definitely a possibility I don't want to overlook. And as I said earlier, we know the Spinosaurus is super aggressive because Eric says the T-Rex P actually attracts that of the Spinosaurus. And the reason the T-Rex P attracts the Spinosaurus, well, that's because the Spinosaurus is hugely territorial and will kill anything it gets the scent of, especially another apex. So is it possible then that it perceived these humans as another apex, another contest to its territory? I don't think it is as likely as the dorsal fin or the mistreatment, but it's definitely a possibility. Now, we all know of the mess that was the Jurassic Park 3's production and script, as they were continuously writing the script as they were filming it. It was a complete mess of a production. So the continuity and storytelling isn't really a strong point of Jurassic Park 3, or the fact that the Spinosaurus is following them everywhere, but there is a massive indication as to why they did follow it in the early production of Jurassic Park 3. Now, in an interview with Ricardo Delago, who worked on Jurassic Park 3 and was one of the writers and producers, he talked about as to why the Spinosaurus was so aggressive and as to how Cooper had blood all over his arm. But during this interview with Ricardo, it is actually said that the original plan as to why the Spinosaurus followed the humans around the entire island was indeed down to revenge, but a certain type of revenge. So let me continue to explain. The original plan and in the script was the fact that there was going to be a baby Spinosaurus.
And I do remember sort of volunteering the idea that, hey, maybe one of the mercs kills a baby Spinosaurus, and that's what pisses off the parent Spinosaurus, and that's why it pursues them through the whole story, you know. But you only have so much time, even though it's a 2-hour feature, there's only so much time that you have with these kind of pictures to formulate that that kind of stuff into the story structure, you know?
Cooper runs into the baby Spinosaurus, attacks it with its gun, and thus killing it. The mother/father Spinosaurus sees this happen and has a massive vendetta against the humans because of this. And in a nutshell, that would make complete sense as to why the Spinosaurus was then following the cast around the island. But they decided to cut this from the movie because they felt it was too similar to the Buck and Rex scene in the Lost World Jurassic Park, and they also had the velociraptors chasing the protagonist everywhere to have their eggs returned. A very similar scenario to the Spinosaurus after them because of its baby. Now, unfortunately, this was never put into the final film because they went for the other option, which was the dorsal fin attack scene, which doesn't make much sense. I would have much rather the Spinosaurus have a clear motive, as such as the revenge for them killing its baby. It would also have that emotional connection to the Spinosaurus as to why he was so aggressive, why he hunted them, and in a nutshell would have made much more sense. It would add even more depth to the fight scene with the T-Rex. Nothing stands in the way of an enraged parent that just lost their child. And at that point, the fans would be split. Would they side with the Spinosaurus because they know it's on a mission of revenge because of its death of its infant, or would they side with the T-Rex? I mean, it really makes you question your choices of who you would support in that situation. I also like the idea that the Spinosaurus sees the humans and it rekindles its memories of being in a lab, being experimented on, and doesn't want to go back to that place in time. Hence why it sees them, gets enraged, and just wants rid of them so it doesn't have to return to that point in its life. It could have remembered all the times it was experimented on, poked, prodded, and everything else in between, being brought up in a lab and seeing everything else around it. Heck, they could have even mashed the two stories together. It would have been fantastic, and it would have definitely improved the mess of the script that was Jurassic Park 3. Universal, I'm free if you want to hire me. There would have also been a cool, parallel link to the Kirbys, believe it or not, because the Kirbys are obviously looking for their missing son and don't want anything to happen to it, and the Spinosaurus was also out to protect its young/child. A clear, parallel link going on there. Now, of course, this is not what happens in the final movie, and it is such a shame, so we can only really go on what was in the final movie, which was the Spinosaurus' dorsal fin/side being hit by the propeller's blade, and thus causing it to go on a rampage, following them throughout the entire island. It is nowhere near as interesting as the baby Spinosaurus or the backstory in the laboratory, but that is factually why the Spinosaurus went after the humans on the entire island. But it does give us another question which has to be asked. Who made the Spinosaurus? Why they made the Spinosaurus? And why was it not in the Lost World Jurassic Park? If you want to know the answer to them questions, check out these videos on the channel. I've also just launched a Five Nights at Freddy's theory channel as well, so head on over there, guys, if you like Five Nights at Freddy's. Subscribe and watch the channel because the support does really help. We're trying to grow that channel as well. I'm Shadows, hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe for more Jurassic World related content, and thank you patrons and YouTube members. I'll see you guys all in the next one. Cheers now, bye bye.